Hello, everyone, and I'm going to be talking to you about if the right to conceal and carry has any effect on gun violence in the U.S. We all know that gun violence is one of the biggest reasons that the U.S. is divided. It causes some of the biggest problems in the U.S., and it comes along in very different forms. Some of the ways that gun violence comes is suicide and homicide, police brutality, or just accidents in general. It doesn't necessarily have to be on purpose. Did you know that mental illness is strongly associated with increased risks of suicide, which amounts for over half of U.S. firearm-related deaths? How about the fact that 80% of gun-related crimes are committed with illegally owned guns? Or that the average person is 14 times more likely to commit a nonviolent crime and 5.3 times more likely to commit a violent crime than a person with a conceal and carry permit. Having a conceal and carry permit is thought of to be very dangerous in many people's eyes. And I can understand that when it comes to being in public and somebody not knowing how to use a gun. But there also are very many benefits that come along with having a conceal and carry permit. One thing is that it can prevent crime from happening in general. If somebody has a gun and a dangerous situation presents itself, then it is possible that that person can stop that situation and make sure nothing goes any farther and prevent any dangerous activity happening. Going along with that, it allows for other citizens to have protection also. It is known that most people who have conceal and carry permits do follow the law with those permits. And it also allows for faster response times in emergency situations. Instead of having to wait for police to show up, you can terminate the situation yourself or provide protection to yourself and the people around you. Because it can take several minutes for people or police officers to get to you to help you in those kinds of situations. Banning the right to conceal and carry is overall just not a good thing. It doesn't stop criminals from getting these guns. It ultimately stops law-abiding citizens who use these guns for good and who don't use these guns in public most of the time not to get these guns. If a criminal wants to get their gun, they're going to. They're called criminals for a reason, and they're going to get that gun in some illegal way, whether it is easy or not. A very touchy thing when it comes to gun violence is school shootings. It causes the most uproar when talking about gun violence. It's one of the most heart-wrenching things whenever it happens, and it's just not good. It causes the most problems in general, and it's one of the biggest things that gets brought up whenever shooting and gun violence is talked about, and wanting to constrict the ability to have a gun and where you can take that gun. one of the things that I'm going to talk about is the shooters at Columbine High School. Whenever this shooting took place, it was in 1999. There was an assault weapon ban put on the United States from 1994 to 2004. This shooting took place during one of the most strict times when it comes to guns in the United States. During this time, whenever this shooting took place, it was considered the worst school shooting in the United States. Another school shooting that I would like to talk about is the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. A big part in this shooting was mental illness. The problem with this shooting was not the fact that he had the gun in general. Making stricter rules on guns will not have helped either of these situations. The man who committed the Sandy Hook school shooting had mental illness. He had tried to purchase a gun that same day earlier. He was denied the ability to purchase that gun because a background check was run on him because he was buying that gun over the counter. It is mandatory to have a background check run on anybody buying a gun over the counter in store. He was not able to buy that gun because of those rules. The guns that he did use in that shooting were his mother's, ones that he got from his house. But in order to get out of the house with those guns, he shot his mother and then proceeded to go to the elementary school. Once he got to the elementary school, he shot through a plate glass window next to the locked school entrance, shot the principal, another staff member, and then proceeded to kill 20 first graders and 4 teachers. This does not prove that we need to have stricter gun laws. It proves that there needed to be more protection at these schools at that time. That is what could have prevented this, not strictening the gun laws. Race is also another thing that comes into play with gun violence. There are people who believe that grow up in certain situations that these guns are bad because they grow up around these guns doing bad things and committing crimes. And that is a big reason that people have such a grudge against guns. Along with that, the majority of violent crimes are committed against people in the same race group. But none of these statistics have made it, they do not back up why gun ownership doesn't back up why black people have higher murder rates. This goes along with also defending the fact that these gun crimes are not committed with legalized guns. These guns are not registered. So most crimes that are committed with guns are committed with illegally owned guns. Most Americans want these conceal and carry permits for protection. Guns are used more for self-defense than anything else. More for self-defense than they are for any type of violent crime. And in these situations, And in these situations, 98% of the time, no shots are fired. I hope that this presentation There are also some interesting facts that go along with with all of these things. You're 50 times more likely to die by cancer than you are by a gun. You're more likely to get stabbed to death than you are to get shot by a rifle, and crime has been declining since the 1990s. I hope that this presentation helped everybody to understand why guns are not dangerous and why it's more beneficial to have guns than it is to get rid of them. And overall, I hope that you understand that altogether, we can make the world a safer place even with guns in it.